You are drinking Satan's drink right now. Or you were this morning when you had your coffee. That's not a metaphor. That's not a bit. In 1511, in Mecca, coffee was literally banned. People were beaten in the streets for it. The governor called it the bitter invention of Satan. And I need you to sit with that for a second, because it gets so much weirder from here. So here's what this video is about. There's this long, embarrassing list of things that normal humans do every single day. Things you probably did before you clicked on this video, that at some point in history were considered evil, sinful, demonic, evidence that you needed to be prosecuted, imprisoned, or sometimes executed. And I'm not talking about fringe stuff. I'm talking about coffee, books, forks, tomatoes, your cat.
Huh?
Yes, your cat. We're going to go through the best ones. I'm going to tell you why they were considered evil, because there's actually a pattern here that makes a lot of sense. And by the end of this, I promise you will feel both slightly smarter and deeply relieved that you weren't born 400 years ago. Let's go. Okay, coffee. We already mentioned the 1511 Mecca ban, but I want you to understand the full picture here. Because it wasn't just one governor being dramatic. When coffee spread to Europe, it got called Satan's bitter invention by religious leaders. Kings were terrified of it, not because of caffeine. They didn't even fully understand caffeine, but because of what coffee enabled. Coffee houses. You'd go in, you'd sit down, you'd talk to strangers for hours, you'd share news, you'd share ideas, you'd start asking questions like, hey, why does the king get to do that? And that is genuinely dangerous if you're in charge. So they didn't ban the drink. They banned the conversation. The coffee was just the excuse. Now, playing cards. The Puritans. And honestly, God bless the Puritans, because they are the gift that keeps giving for videos like this. The Puritans made gaming illegal. Like, punishable by fine or whipping illegal. The logic was, if you're playing cards, you're not working. If you're not working, you're wasting time God gave you. And wasting time is basically spitting in God's face. Game night today. Fun. Casual. Maybe you lose settlers of cotton and you're a little dead inside for a week. Game night in 17th century England, you're in court. Alright, dancing. The waltz, which, if you've ever seen the waltz, is about as scandalous as a firm handshake, was called obscene and lust-inducing when it first became popular. Why? Because the man and the woman were facing each other while touching. That was the whole thing. That was the scandal. Just facing each other. Some dance teachers were fined heavily. Some churches banned it entirely. One writer at the time called it a dissipation of the most revolting kind. A slow dance. He said that about a slow dance. A slow dance used to be considered a fast track to hell. I can't improve on that sentence. And then there's reading. Not reading the wrong books. Not reading heresy. Just reading. Novels were called intellectual poison. There's a great quote from a 19th century critic who basically said fiction was rotting women's minds because it made them want things. Wanting things. That was a threat. Forbidden books could get you imprisoned. Excommunicated. In some periods, owning the wrong text meant your neighbors could report you. And your neighbors would report you because they'd been told it was their religious duty. Reading the wrong book used to get you jailed. Now it just gets you a Goodreads recommendation. Okay, stop. I want to point something out, because there's a pattern here that once you see it, you'll see it in every single example we're about to go through. It was never actually the habit. It was what the habit allowed people to do. Coffee let people gather and talk freely. Books let people think for themselves. Dancing let people get physically close outside of supervised settings. Cards let people enjoy time that wasn't being productive. Every single one of these was evil because it gave ordinary people a little more freedom, a little more power, a little more independence. And that terrified the people in charge. Okay, now I need to tell you about the cats. Before we get to cats, two quick ones that I genuinely cannot believe were real. Laughing too much. Medieval monks had actual rules about laughter. Excessive laughter was considered sinful. It showed you had lost control of your emotions, which was a sign of spiritual weakness and pride. The idea was basically that if you're laughing a lot, you're not thinking about God enough. Laughing too much used to be a discipline issue. There were monks sitting in stone rooms in silence thinking, I must not find things funny. Finding things funny is dangerous. I think about that at 2 a.m. watching YouTube, and it makes me feel incredibly spiritually free. And then there's night walking. In medieval and early modern England, there was an actual legal concept called night walking, which meant going outside at night. That's it. That was the whole crime. If you were outside after dark and you weren't nobility, which statistically you weren't, you could be arrested. Simply being outside after sundown was considered probable cause for suspicion. The logic: darkness equals lack of control. Lack of control equals danger. Danger equals you must be up to something. Late night walk, back then, that's basically a confession. Now it's just a mental health recommendation. Okay, cats. I wasn't joking. If you owned a cat, particularly in parts of medieval Europe, that cat could be presented as evidence against you in a witchcraft trial. Cats were labeled demonic familiars. The belief was that the devil would send a small animal to assist a witch in their evil work. And cats, because they're independent, weird, nocturnal, and they stare at things that aren't there, were the #1 suspect. People were executed based partly on cat ownership. Your cat, who is currently sitting on your laptop and knocking your water off the table, would have gotten you killed. Now it gets your Instagram followers in a dedicated subreddit. The same creature, same behavior, completely different consequence. And bathing. This one has layers. For a significant chunk of European history, bathing was genuinely believed to be dangerous. Not just inconvenient. Dangerous. The theory, and there was actual medical consensus behind this for a while, was that water opened up your pores, and open pores let in disease and demons. So the hygienic thing, by their logic, was to not wash. It was also a religious angle. Nudity, even in private, was associated with sin. And mixed-gender bathing, which did exist in some public bath traditions, required penance. Taking a shower used to be risky. Not risky like might slip. Risky like might invite demonic possession into your newly opened pores. We were out here being filthy for God. 2 more, and then I want to bring it all together because I think there's something genuinely interesting going on here. Forks. When forks arrived in Western Europe, brought over from the Byzantine Empire around the 11th century, they were not welcomed. They were mocked. They were condemned. A monk at the time wrote that a Venetian noblewoman who used a fork at dinner was so vain and unnatural that God punished her with disease shortly after. The actual argument was, God gave you fingers. Fingers are God's utensils. Using a fork is essentially saying God's design isn't good enough for you. Using a fork was, once upon a time, considered disrespecting God. Every time you eat pasta, you are historically heretic. Just so you know, and tomatoes. Called poison apples, associated with death and witchcraft, avoided in parts of Europe and America for centuries. And here's the thing, there's actually a real reason people thought they were poisonous, and it's weirdly interesting. Wealthy Europeans were eating off pewter plates, which had high lead content. Tomatoes are acidic. The acid leaned from the plate into the food. People got sick. People died. They blamed the tomato. The tomato was innocent the whole time. The plate did it. But the tomato had a bad reputation for 200 years anyway. People feared tomatoes more than junk food. And honestly, the tomato's comeback arc is one of the greatest in culinary history. Okay, here's the thing I actually want you to take away from all this. Every single habit we talked about. Coffee, books, dancing, forks, tomatoes, cats, laughter, going outside at night. None of them were actually the problem. The pattern is simple, and it repeats across all of history. New thing appears. People don't understand it. People in power fear what it might do, so they label it evil. Coffee wasn't dangerous. Conversation was dangerous. Books weren't poisonous. Independent thinking was poisonous. Cats weren't demonic. Women who lived alone and weren't under male authority were seen as threats. The evil label was almost never about the thing itself. It was about the social shift the thing represented. And here's what's a little uncomfortable about that. This is still happening. It just looks different now. Every generation has its list of things that obviously seem dangerous, threatening, morally concerning, that the next generation will look back on and go, wait, that was the thing you were scared of? The medieval church wasn't uniquely stupid. They were just humans doing what humans do, mistaking unfamiliar for dangerous. We're doing the same thing, we just don't know which things yet. Anyway, your coffee is fine, your cat is fine, please continue using your fork. That's the video. If you made it this far, you now know that at various points in history, you would have been considered a dangerous, possibly demonic individual for having a cup of coffee, reading a book, laughing too hard, and petting your cat. All in one morning, absolute menace. Honestly respect it. If you want to see more videos where I find out that history was deeply weird and explain it to you like this, subscribe. It's free. The algorithm requires me to say this. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.